Hey, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I just came back from a trip, so I'm back in action now. Yeah, it was very nice. I went to Namibia. There was PyCon Namibia last week. No, actually 2 weeks ago, and yeah, it's amazing there. And I had a good time. Met a lot of people, and yeah, also the country never fails to amaze me. So which is very very good. Yeah, I don't know whether you can see I'm, or maybe the white balance kind of corrected, but I'm like more tense now. You can see from my hands maybe. Yeah, it's very nice. Now I'm energized, and I would like to show something to you. But because I have an overnight flight yesterday, so like I don't want to be overboard and give like a super strong, like super long stream. Just gonna show you something that some people, especially like people beginning to use Python, are not very aware, is to use a Python environment, separate Python environment for your different Python projects. There are a few reasons why you want to have a different Python environment for your project. The main reason that I learned it the hard way is that when I was a data scientist, you know, I just like all the beginners. I just want, just get my Python up and running, and then I'm happy, and I'm trying all these different libraries, pandas, NumPy, and following some tutorials online to do different projects. But then soon I encountered some problem because one project that I started to play around with some data, I was using some versions of pandas, and then I forget it wild, and then I start something new. It's always something exciting. But then, like in the meantime, I think I updated my pandas or something like that. That because I was doing something new, right? So after a few months, or even maybe a year, I forgot how long, I go back to the first project and then realize something is broken because I've updated my version and it doesn't work anymore. That's kind of a little bit tricky because if I want to run the first project, I have to, reinstall pandas with the older version and stuff. It's not very nice. Sometimes it's even more complicated because your different library may depending on different things. Then you kind of have a struggle that do you have to reinstall everything every time. At that time, I only know that you can have a requirements.txt that you can put all your requirements there, but you know, soon I realized I have to step up. I have to like create different Python environment for different projects. So today I'm gonna show you that. Mainly the reason why we'll be looking at the Python path is because we want to understand all this, how Python, sees your library and how and then how having different environment will change things. We're gonna look in, not for detail, but look a little bit into it. So that's what we're gonna do, and I'll be using VM for demonstrate because VM is the most basic Python virtual environment management tool that you could have. It comes with a CPython, but I know a lot of you, if you are, using some data science stuff, maybe you would prefer Conda, because Conda is kind of a more, I would say, more low level kind of tool to manage things. So for VN, it's because it's come with Python, it's mainly designed for Python projects only. But for Conda, it kind of support other languages as well. So for scientific, for people who do scientific programming or data scientists, we use a lot of packages that actually are not written in pure Python. So that will make Conda a little bit better and easier to use. But the ideas are the same. It's just that VM is just the most basic one. We can look into it a little bit easier. But if you already, for example, if you download Anaconda and already using Anaconda, Conda is included in Anaconda, so you can already start using Conda. Things are more or less the same. Today, like some commands, you see what I do, will be different because you're using a different tool, but you can easily look it up. What's the command of creating a new environment? What's the command of activating it, deactivating it? But without further ado, let's have a look. So I have now a empty thing. So basically nothing inside this folder because I just created it a few minutes ago. So now I want to first of all have a look at what Python do if what are the Python paths, right? That's the title of this stream. So let's look at that the first thing that we do. So Python 3, so I start at Python. Okay, there's my Python. I'm using Python 3. So in Python 3, so actually I'm using 3.8.9. It's a little bit dated, but it's okay. If you use other tools, like for example PyEnv, you can also have other versions of Python. You have more updated version of Python. But this is my base Python in my machine, so it's a bit old, as you can see. It doesn't matter because this, VM and stuff hasn't been changed much since Python 3, so it's okay. So let's have a look at the Python path. So where does Python path live? So it actually lives in the sys.path. So what we can do is to first import sys, and then we can print sys.path. See what's going on. Low, a long list of things. So for those of you who are familiar with some basic Python, you know this is a list of strings. And so there's lots of them. They look like some paths in your computer. The first one is actually empty, which means is here locally, your working directory. But there are other paths. For example, you see you have some like Python 3 framework somewhere installed. Python 3h.zip. This is actually my base Python 3.h, like I said before. So it's somewhere sitting in my computer. I'm using Mac, so that's why it's Python 3h.zip. If you're using Windows or Linux, it will look a little bit different. Also, where is live is also a little bit different for everybody, but that's mainly where the Python is right here. And also, there are other things that worth noticing is that we have this library, Python 3.8, and side packages. So this is actually the directory where all your installed library lives, right? So if you install something, like for example, I use pip install request, so it will be put here. Why do we care? Because when you have a different virtual environment, this will change. So this will not be using my base Python. This will be using the Python in my new virtual environment. So what does it mean? Well, I'm gonna show you by creating a new environment. So let's exit our Python first, right? So and clear up the screen a little bit because it will start crushing on my head. I don't want it to happen. So let's clear it. Now let's create a new environment. Like I said before, I'm using venv today, but if you are using Conda, you can look it up. What's the command to create a new environment? Basically, all the operations are the same. So the concepts are more or less the same. So let's look at it now with venv. So what I'm gonna do is to use my base Python 3, which is 3.h, the one you just see, and then I'm gonna run the module. VM is the standard library, so it comes with your CPython if you download Python from the python.org website. So here I can just call VM as a library, right? Like for example, sometimes you see people do like -m pip. So that's actually using pip, which is a tool that comes with Python for you to install things, right? But I'm not installing anything right now, just yet. I'm just using VM to create a new environment. So I need to give the environment a name. So it's just my env for now. It's easy, right? I don't want to, oops. Create something new. So what's going on here? Okay. Yeah, the computer is a bit slow right now. So let me close a little bit of the application running in the background. It's kind of worrying me a little bit. Okay, so now I have my env, so let's have a look. So now I have something in my folder. So because I've created a new virtual environment inside this folder, inside the local, like the current location, which is my env, as you can see here. So my env is actually just a folder, right? It's a virtual environment, but it's also a folder right now here. So we can have a look inside to see what what's inside, right? So if I look at my env, there's actually quite a lot of things. So there's a config file. So it's basically all the configuration for the virtual environment. We are not going to dive into it. Today is just the introduction, so don't touch that yet. So we see there's a bin. So bin usually is where you store the scripts. So let's have a look at the bin here in my environment. So you see that we have interesting things. We have Python and Python 3, pip and pip3. Oh, this sounds familiar. And we also have activate. So basically what is here is all this execution like script that we have. For example, activate would activate your environment. I'll show you how to do it just in a second. We also have pip and Python. So those are actually commands that we could use when we are in the virtual environment. So yeah, that's actually a copy of my base Python version. Because I haven't done any settings, anything sophisticated, the copy of my base Python version 3.8 is still 3.8, right? It's just a copy. It's the same. And that's the bin. Another thing that we could have a look is library. So in Include and library are kind of similar, but library is actually storing all the library that you install in this virtual environment, and Include actually store all the non-Python extension scripts that you installed. So it's kind of, we can have a look at lib library. That's somewhere we can have a look. Include, unless you install something that is not written in pure Python, you probably won't see anything inside. So right now, because I haven't installed anything, so if you look at my env lib, you would see Python 3h. So see Python 3h, and then there's side packages. Oh, it looks familiar, right? Like we see something like that in our sister path before, because like I said before, that's where your Python are looking for all the library that you install. So that's where they lived. So for your base version of Python, it will live in the base Python 3a side packages. But because this is new environment that we created, so it's also under side packages under Python 3.8, but it's sitting inside my env, which is the new environment that I created. So right now you see nothing. I only have pip and setup tools. So it's a little bit difficult to see what I have here, because there's also other things that are a little bit confusing, like the .this info, all this stuff. Actually, they are the package that so that actually come. So if you have setup tools and also have the setup tool .this info, they kind of come together. So the easier way to see what you have is pip list, in case you haven't seen that before. But before I do that, because now I'm not in the virtual environment just yet, so now if I type pip 3 list, it will show me what my base Python have. So it's not showing what I have inside the virtual environment. So what we're gonna do is to enter the virtual environment. So before that, I don't want to be crushed by the command line, so I'm going to clear it out. And now I'm going to activate my virtual environment. So to activate the virtual environment with venv, I need to run the activate script. So do you remember where it is? Anybody have good memory? Remember what it is, where it is? So the command for Mac is source. I think it may be the same for Linux, but for Windows it's different. So again, there are documentations on the Python website. You can look it up if you need to. So source, so myenv bin and activate. Okay. So if I press that, oh, you see that now I have a bracket myenv at the beginning, which is a prompt to indicate that you are now in this environment. So now the Python path will be all the paths that is inside this myenv folder, which is the virtual environment. So if you say which typo Python 3, and you'll see now on the path, you see that actually is here. You see that I have myenv bin Python 3, right? So now I'm using the Python 3 within the bin that I've just showed you earlier. So instead of so let's go back out and have a look if I'm using my base Python. So to go back out to exit the virtual environment, you use the activate. So you see that now if I have which Python 3, it's different paths. This is my base Python. This is where my base Python is living. So the Python 3 is like here under my username. So let's enter the environment again. So which is this one. Okay. So we're back here, and then Python path will be this one. So it's different. We also want to one thing we can check is to check the sister path, like are the install packages going to be the one within myenv, or is it the one that is that is the base Python. So to double check, we can again first clear it and then we enter Python. So now if I type Python 3, it will be using the Python 3 in the bin in MyEnv. So now to make sure that we're using that Python, not the base Python, we can look at sys.path. So again, import sys, print. Now you see that for the side packages, remember this path? Now it is inside MyEnv. If you have good memory, you remember the base Python is not in MyEnv. So now you see that as if we have another set of everything, another set of Python, another set of where the packages, another set of packages. So if you haven't installed anything in this, so now it's a new environment, right? I haven't installed anything. So if, for example, we import request, we will say no request. You haven't installed it, right? So what we're gonna do is now exit and clear the screen. And so if I type pip list, right? So I see I only have two things. That's all the fresh, brand new Python environment will have only two things that are excuse me, that I installed for you. That is the pip and setup tools. So pip, I think you already know, you already use it. It's for installing packages. Setup tools is more or less for when you it's actually helping you to install and also set up the packages and all stuff. So yeah, so those are essential. That's what is come with your Python. So your new environment, fresh Python. So it also wants us to upgrade pip, but because it's just a demo, I won't be bothered doing that. Let's move on to install. So pip install, or if you want to be more correct, you can pip3 install. But since we are in an environment, pip3 and pip install is going to be the same. Or if you want to be absolutely sure, you can Python 3-m pip. So this is definitely using the pip that is come with your Python 3. Install request. Okay, so now we are installing, and then let's clear the screen because again, like I'm crushing it or it's crushing me. I don't know. So now if I type pip list, see that now I have a lot of things installed because I've installed in this environment. You have all your things, you certify that's like come with it's dependency of request, so that's why they're installed, url lib3. So now if I again enter Python 3, I can import request. No problem, no error message this time, which is good. So let's exit and clear the screen again. Right, so this is our new environment, right? Our new environment have a request because we have installed it. What about our base Python? Do we have requests? Let's see. So let's deactivate our environment. So we go back to our base version. There's no bracket MyEnv anymore. So now let's have a quick look at what do we have? So pip list again. Remember, pip3 list to make sure that we are using the right pip. So let's see. We don't have something. We have pip setup tool. We also have sex and width. Those are also the thing that sometimes come with your Python. So there's no request. The key point is there's no request because we only install it inside MyEnv. It's not in my base Python, so it's not here. So again, if you now do Python 3, and then if you do import, request, there's nothing, can't be found because it's not installed. So yeah, so that's the basic showing of. Glad that you're streaming again. Yes, I am. Thank you. So that's a basic demo of how Python like virtual environment work, and I think it's a very good tip for especially beginners who haven't used it before. So there are also other available. I've mentioned VEnv, I've mentioned Conda. There's also like PyEnv. I use PyEnv because PyEnv lets you also very easily switch between different Python versions. Some people prefer other like pipenv or poetry. those are also like similar environment like management tool. Which one to use? Up to you. I I would say that depending on your use case, choose one that works for you. But please use any one of them because you don't want to be like me years ago when I have multiple projects. They don't like each other because I'm using the same environment and they require different environments. Um, so my tip will be again like if you're using some if you install a Conda, you already have Conda, you can use Conda. If you're doing data science, scientific stuff, so Conda would be a very convenient one for you to use. But if you're just using some like basic Python stuff, so start with VM, but you can grade like migrate to maybe PyEnv work better for you or something. You can do that as well. So yeah, also once I looked up Conda, also because in Python you see I use VM and I also use pip to install things. So Conda also kind of, sometimes I would think it almost like a VM plus pip because you can also Conda install things. But how Conda install work and pip install work is slightly different. So Conda install would be default is installed from the Anaconda repository. For pip, the default is the PyPI repository. So they are different and don't get confused. Maybe sometime I would be able to make another stream to explain what's the difference between like Conda install and pip install and all stuff. But right now I'm focusing on the virtual environment, and the key takeaway is you have to use different virtual environment for different projects. That would actually save you some trouble in the long run. It's a really good practice, especially for new data scientists or new Python programmers. That's a really good idea to do. And I think that's it for me. And I have to get back to work now. So, unfortunately, yeah. Nowadays I'm doing shorter live streams because I think for me it's easier to fit in my schedule, and also I don't want to get burnt out from the streaming burnout that like I did a few years ago. Yes, keep different projects separated. That's exactly the point that we are making here. Yeah, so you don't have conflicts. Exactly. Well said. So yeah, I'm afraid that's it for me for today. I haven't planned when is the next one yet, but maybe in a few weeks' time. So I'm doing it less frequently and shorter live stream right now because I don't want to burn myself out like I did during the pandemic. I was streaming very frequently, but it's difficult to juggle between work and also now I travel a lot in my work as well and streaming. So apologize for that, but I'm glad that some of you are still here, and I'll see you next time.